Ingredients. This is a jar of water. Obviously you need a lot more of this to make a 23 litre batch or a 19 litre batch of beer. But it's the first ingredient you'll need to make your beer. Second, base malts. So here are some Pilsner malt, some wheat malt, and some Vienna malt. If you're making a Vienna lager or a Marzen, you can use this up to 100%. It's sweet, and I often use it as a substitute for some pale malt in my pale ales. And now we get on to some sort of crystal malts. So this is dextrin or Carapils malt. Adds sweetness, a lot of unfermentable sugars, so you get that residual sweetness, add some body and some mouthfeel, but with very little colour. And as you go up the crystal malt scale, you get more colour in your beer. This is a specialty malt from Gladfield called Toffee Malt, and it also is very light in colour. It's very moist compared to other grains. It's sitting at about, I think it's about 10% moisture. So you really, if you're going to use this malt, and I really like it for adding to a lot of different styles of beer. And if you're adding it to, when you're adding it, if you crush your own grain, make sure you add it with a base malt to keep it dry and space it out. Then we have the roasted malts. This is roast barley, and it's good for stouts, porters, black IPAs, dark lagers, and some, if you want to, you can add a couple of tablespoons to throw a bit of colour in a beer that you're making if you just want the colour. It won't add too much. It'll add very little flavour, a couple of tablespoons, but you'll get a noticeable difference in your colour. And this is another adjunct. This is rye malt. Some people like it, some people don't, but I quite like the dry, peppery flavours it gives in like a red IPA or even a red ale. It adds a bit of perception to it. Next, hops. Some people love them. Some people add them in their kilos. Well, maybe not that much, but there are essentially 3 different types. So that's a Australian variety. They're bittering hops. Centennial is dual purpose, and they say Galaxy is dual purpose, but its cohumulone levels are above 30%, so you've got to be really careful not to add too many in the bittering edition, otherwise your bitterness can be quite harsh. So I use Galaxy for flavour and aroma only. I do have an all Galaxy hopped pale ale, but I add, I think it's 4 grams to a 23 litre batch in the bittering edition. And the last ingredient is yeast. Comes in dry and liquid forms. This is harvested Cooper's pale ale yeast, so I use that in some of my pale ales when I want a bit of pear or a cloudy type pale ale, because this one doesn't ferment. It doesn't drop out of suspension straight away. And this is a Saf lager. This is a dry yeast packet. So you can buy wheat, cider, ale and lager yeasts in the dry packets. You don't get as much variety as liquid yeasts, but I live in a place where liquid yeasts, I've got to put a lot of ice in. Because it's just really hot most of the year, and the dry yeast is a lot more forgiving. Storing your malt. So this is just a garbage bin, but it's thick plastic I spend a fair bit of time making sure that no moisture can get in. So you do that with your silicone bags, or other type of moisture eaters. And this one, to make sure no rodents or rats or anything get in, this lid clips down so you can't pull it off. All my yeasts I store in the fridge. All my hops I store in the freezer.